وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, for the respect time, I won't go through all the thank yous, and it's good to see you, and it's a blessing to be with you. But all of that, by Allah's mercy. When someone, an institution, a society, when they're looking to bring about change, they often form panels, bring groups of experts in, spend thousands or millions of dollars doing research, gathering data, processing the data, analyzing the data, formulating a plan. Then they implement the plan, and 5 years later, 10 years later, they reevaluate the plan to see if it's working and spend millions of dollars in the process, especially when they're trying to do like a society-based program. I invite all of us to step away from our emotional attachment with Imam Mohammed, as difficult as that may be, and look at him as a thinker in the history of the thinkers in mankind. We all have a personal relationship. And if a society, if America wanted to bring about population-wide change, how would they do it? Healthy People 2010, Healthy People 2020, Dietary Guidelines for America, the Centers for Disease Control, the American Psychological Association, the American Association of Diabetes Educators, right? So all these associations. But when you look at how Allah blessed one individual to bring about effective change, not theoretical change, and significant change in millions of individuals in a number of vital areas in their lives. You know, changing beliefs is one of the most difficult things, one of the most difficult tasks individuals do. Changing habits is a difficult task. Now, nobody wanted this personal, but when I look at it personal, I can't help but reflect on my own education from Imam Muhammad and also from my secular experiences, in which they hire all these panels to put together programs that don't work. And Imam Muhammad put together, goes all the way back to the Nation of Islam, we're focused on Imam Muhammad. He put together a program that brought about effective change, actual change in millions of people without hiring any panels, without bringing together any group of experts, by using the unique vision and tools that Allah gave him to apply the Quran and the Sunnah. So when you look at Imam Muhammad's life, and I appreciate what you said, Imam Fahim, but we all have these, and they're not all, and you already mentioned it, they're not all the same, right? So a method on how to approach life, a method on how to approach education, a method on how to approach business, a method on how to approach family, a method on how to approach societal change, and not just rhetoric, but an actual methodology. And I'm not saying this for fanfare. Imam Muhammad's work, when appropriately appreciated, will produce thousands of experts that's just analyzing for years, doing the research for years, analyzing how he was so effective at bringing about actual change. Now for you and I, we lived it. But there's a lot of places all over the world that's trying to bring about change. And they're not having the success. So it's miraculous. And we're so close to it that we can't see it sometimes and we can't appreciate it. And later on, when we have the opportunity to speak with the younger generations, that's one of the challenges, because the education we get conditions us away from the idea of conformity. And this comes after the research that was done on post-Nazi Germany and how so many people were able to do all these atrocities. There's some big landmark studies that came out of that. And from that came a whole non-conformist movement and a non-groupthink movement. And we were educated in that system. And that affected even affected how we perceived our parents talking about Imam Muhammad. Because that's a system that we were indoctrinated in. And it takes something very strong to make sure that you don't just buy into that, and that you don't give your mind to that you keep an independent mind and an independent thought. So a method for approaching life and answering the vital questions of life, that's one of the most valuable things that I personally got from the leadership of Imam Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. Brother Ahmad, Shaheed. And for me, I grew up in the community of Imam. I grew up with nothing but his students as my teachers. And so I have always been inundated and immersed in Imam Muhammad's language. But it wasn't until I graduated college, really, until I actually started to study the Imam's language for myself. So, and as I started to study Imam's language for myself, it was really only at the impetus of Imam Wazir pulling me in and reconnecting me, asking me to help with first the building of Masjid Muhammad. And then, it's kind of funny how that works, so I have to take this aside. I'm a project manager in my professional life that's building pipelines for across the country. And he knew I was a project manager, so he said, hey, you need to, your project management skills to build the Masjid. So having grown up in this community, having grown up the son of two of the hardest workers of Masjid Al-Ansar has produced, Sister Charlotte and Brother Shaheed, I couldn't say no. So when I said yes to that, it ended up being yes to anything else he asked for. So hey, can you do Juma tomorrow because I can't make it? What does that have to do with project management? I have no idea. But you know, all of that, and it was in that activity, in that new experience for me, where I started to kind of study the Imam's language for myself, and I started to realize that all of the things I thought, you know, just made sense to me as being Muslim were things the Imam had said. So it gave me a unique appreciation for, you know, my past, my present, and that even if I didn't know to attribute it to the Imam, that was the way my Islamic understanding came to be. So when I started to study the Imam for myself, then I didn't have the same cultural references. I didn't grow up in the church. There were a lot of you know, sometimes the symbolism, the imagery that Imam Muhammad uses didn't really connect to me. But what I connected with was kind of like Imam Wazir said. He had a unique formula in every speech, every khutbah, every session that he did. He had a unique formula where, to me, when I start to look at other people and I see that they are, the Quran is the tafsir, is the best tafsir, right? The Quran gives tafsir on itself. So looking at the Arabic and breaking down the Arabic and showing how the Arabic used in this location actually informs the meaning in this location, that came to me from the Imam. And I found it, I see it replicated by other scholars, but I know from reading the transcripts, I know that is a unique formula from the Imam that is now a little more pervasive, but that's where it started. You know, that's where all of the teachers that I know, the way that I know to read the Quran, that's where it comes from. And so that unique formula, I think, is a very valuable, vital, and to me, that is the inheritance. To not allow, as you can see, many scholars, they're finished. If you start to go out into the world and you start to follow other religions or other religious practices, you see that sometimes they want to put the Sunnah over the Quran. Well, you know, they want to, but Imam Muhammad grounded us, gave us his formula that how can you say it makes no sense to me. So he gave us a logical formula, kind of like Pythagorean theorem for me. I'm an engineer, so to me he gave me a logical formula, even though I have to change some of the symbolism, even if the side, the shape of this angle and the shape of this angle has to change. I have a formula by which I can utilize, by which I can teach, by which I can reach other people, by which I can communicate the beauty and the essence of this beautiful religion. That's kind of what I feel like is there.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Bayyina Khalil. I currently reside in Houston, Texas, and I'm a product of this community, Masjid Al-Ansar in Miami, Florida. For me, preserving the legacy of Imam Muhammad doesn't have one answer. As Imam Wazir was speaking, and he mentioned areas of family, areas of career. What was the point you were making? You were saying that you should be able to see something in areas of this and areas of that.
There's a method,
Yeah.
there's an approach, how to approach this area, how to approach that.
As he was saying that, every area you gave, the only thing that could come to my mind was service. How you approach your family, service. How you approach your career, service. How you approach your community, service. And I think that Imam Muhammad's life was a life of service. And in preserving his legacy, for me, it personally means taking the best examples and sharing them with those who may not otherwise get it without necessarily identifying the source. As Ahmad said, a lot of times you'll grow up in the community and you'll be a product of something, but you don't realize what you have or who you are or what you've been given until you go outside of that bubble, you go outside of that circle, and you realize what the rest of the world doesn't have, and you're like, I can't believe you don't get it. You don't get it? And it's like you can't tell them, well, in the speech that I heard, because you don't remember every speech you heard, right? You can't tell them, oh, well, this clip I heard, right? All you can do is show them by the example that you were provided, and it just comes so naturally to you. And so for me, when I think about the preservation of Imam Muhammad's legacy, I see it in producing a life where you're always asking yourself, how can I serve? How can I improve any situation I am, any condition that I am in, and bring out the best in everyone around me. Another thought that came to my mind, oftentimes when you are going through life and you approach situations that seem difficult or challenging. For example, we had an open forum last night, like a listening session. and the young people talked about being in an environment where they feel like they're the only one. Oh man, you gotta fast. Oh man, you can't get with that girl. Oh man, you can't go to this club. And it feels like they're growing up in a life of can'ts, right? Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And one of the young people said that when this way of life is given to them, with the logic that comes behind it, it doesn't become a series of camps. It becomes a series of steps to your purpose. So when you're looking at how to move, what choices you're going to make, because ultimately everything in life is a choice. What choices you're going to make. You're asking yourself, what step is going to get me closer to that purpose? Like, what is my life purpose? And so anything that's not going to fulfill that purpose is not going to be a step that you're going to take, because it's not helping you fulfill that purpose. And so this is from the mouth of an 18, 19-year-old who gets it. But we know that he's a product of his environment, his home, his community, and whatever other environments his parents exposed him to. So for me personally, it's been recognizing that the choices that I make in life are about service, they're about steps towards a purpose, and lastly, it's about creating an environment, choosing an environment that nurtures you. As a woman, you choose your leadership. You don't get to choose your father, and I'm very blessed for the father that I have. And I know that who I am today is because of that leadership that he gave. And as you get older, you see all of the positives and all the opportunities in that leadership. But you're grateful that you have it, because you hear from so many people who don't have it. So in my life, I've always had to choose my environments. And so when I'm going